For years, almost everyone on the planet believed the same simple story. Tesla builds electric cars. That was the entire pitch. Sedans, an SUV, a pickup truck with an unusual shape, and a constant stream of headlines about how many vehicles rolled off the line each quarter. That story was comfortable. It was easy to repeat at a dinner table, and it was, in many ways, completely wrong. Because while the world was arguing about delivery numbers, waiting lists, and whether the Cybertruck looked like something from a movie set, Elon Musk was quietly pouring billions of dollars into technology that had almost nothing to do with selling a car to a family in the suburbs. Chips built for artificial intelligence, humanoid robots, a supercomputer with a strange one-word name, battery chemistry developed from scratch, a lithium refinery on American soil. None of that fits neatly into the story of a car company chasing market share. So the real question starts right here in the first minute of this investigation. Was Tesla ever just a car company? Or has the badge on the hood been hiding something far bigger the entire time? Let's start with the number that made Wall Street sit up straight, even though most casual viewers scrolled right past it. Tesla confirmed the tape out of a new artificial intelligence chip known as AI-5, with a successor already sketched out on the roadmap called AI-6. A tape out is not marketing, it is the finished blueprint of a chip sent to a fabrication plant to actually be manufactured in silicon. Tesla shifted part of that production to outside partners, including Taiwan Semiconductor and Samsung, a move that on its own tells you this is not a hobby project buried inside an automaker. You do not build custom silicon, negotiate with the two most advanced chip manufacturers on Earth, and design a multi-generation roadmap unless that chip is meant to become the beating heart of something enormous. So what is that something? According to Tesla's own public statements, these chips are meant to power two very different machines at the same time. One is the car running its self-driving software. The other is Optimus, the humanoid robot that Musk has repeatedly called, in his own words, potentially the largest product in the company's entire history. Stop and sit with that claim for a second. Not the biggest product in the car lineup, the biggest product period. Bigger in his own framing than the vehicles that made the company famous in the first place. That is not a footnote. That is a company placing its long-term identity on a walking, moving machine that has nothing to do with driving anyone anywhere. Now here is where the investigation gets tense, because Tesla's compute strategy has not been a straight line. Dojo, the custom supercomputer built specifically to train self-driving neural networks, went through a very public wobble. Reports describe teams being disbanded and priorities shifting, only for parts of the effort to be revived later under a different structure. Why would a company simultaneously build one of the most ambitious private supercomputers on the planet, then pull back, then bring pieces of it back to life? The honest answer is that we do not have full visibility into the internal decision-making. What we do know, verified through public reporting and company disclosures, is that compute strategy at Tesla has been in constant motion, chasing whatever architecture gets them to usable artificial intelligence the fastest. That restlessness is itself a clue. You do not restructure your own supercomputer strategy this aggressively if all you are trying to do is build a slightly smarter cruise control. Let's follow the money into a second track that rarely makes the evening news: energy. Tesla's Megapack business, its large-scale battery storage system, has been quietly expanding, plugging into power grids and utility projects around the world. On earnings calls, executives have specifically highlighted improving profit margins in this energy segment, sometimes outperforming the margins on the cars themselves. Layer on top of that the concept of a virtual power plant, where thousands of home batteries and solar systems are coordinated together to act like a single flexible power station. Then add a lithium refinery built on American soil, designed to process raw lithium into battery-grade material without depending on overseas supply chains. None of that is about selling you a car. That is about controlling the raw material, the storage, and the distribution of energy itself. Here is the moment where the pieces stop looking random and start looking like a single machine. Picture a stack laid out from the ground up. At the very bottom sits the silicon, the AI-5 and AI-6 chips, the raw computational horsepower. On top of that sits the artificial intelligence models, trained to recognize a stop sign, a pedestrian, a door handle, a human task. On top of that sits the physical hardware, the cars that drive themselves and the robots that walk and grip and lift. On top of that sits the service layer, a robotaxi you summon with an app. map, a fleet that earns money every single mile without a driver behind the wheel. And at the very top sits the infrastructure, the batteries, the refineries, the power plants, the factories that build all of it at scale. Read from bottom to top, that is not a car company's balance sheet. That is the blueprint of an entire technological economy, built layer by layer in public, while almost everyone was watching the wrong layer. But before this starts to sound like a Tesla commercial, let's slow down and separate what is actually proven from what is still a promise. It is a verified fact that Tesla completed the AI5 chip tape-out. It is a verified fact that Megapack sales and energy margins have grown. It is a verified fact that Tesla increased capital spending specifically tied to artificial intelligence and robotics, and said so directly on its own earnings calls. Those are documented on the record and not in dispute. What is not yet proven is whether any of this actually works at the scale Musk describes. Unsupervised, fully autonomous robo-taxi service running without a human safety driver in the vehicle remains, as of now, limited to pilot programs in a handful of cities rather than a nationwide reality. Optimus remains in early production and prototype stages, not a mass-deployed labor force standing in warehouses across the country. Some financial analysts at major banks have modeled autonomy and robotics as the primary driver of Tesla's future value. Others remain openly skeptical, describing the timelines as overly optimistic and the technical hurdles as still enormous. That split matters. This is not a settled conclusion. It is an active argument happening right now among the people whose job is to price this exact uncertainty into a stock chart. So here is the provocative question worth sitting with. The one that should follow you out of this video and into the comment section. If Tesla genuinely becomes the infrastructure layer underneath transportation, energy, and physical labor all at once, does that make it the most important company of the next 50 years? Or does concentrating that much control over how we move, how we power our homes, and how physical work gets done in a single corporation become one of the most dangerous bets society has ever made? There is no comfortable, easy answer to that. Both outcomes are sitting on the table at the same time, and which one wins depends on choices that have not been made yet. Because if this actually scales, the impact does not stay locked inside a factory or a spreadsheet. It walks straight into your own life. Start with jobs. Heavy automation and humanoid robots performing repetitive physical labor could genuinely reduce demand for certain routine manufacturing and logistics roles, the exact kind of jobs that have anchored working-class income for generations. At the same time, that same shift creates rising demand for a narrower band of highly skilled workers, engineers who can design, train, and maintain these robotic and artificial intelligence systems. History has shown this pattern before with earlier waves of automation, and the usual result is a widening gap, unless policy, retraining programs, and how the resulting profits are distributed actually change the outcome this time. Then there is transportation and logistics. A functioning robotaxi network does not just replace your occasional rideshare trip. It reshapes freight economics, insurance models, and potentially the livelihood of millions of professional drivers, from taxi operators to long-haul truckers. And on the other side of the ledger, distributed energy systems, home batteries linked together into virtual power plants, could hand ordinary households more control over their electricity costs and resilience during grid failures, while simultaneously shifting enormous pricing power toward whichever company controls the software coordinating all of it. This is exactly why serious researchers keep circling back to the same cautious phrase. Firms like McKinsey and multiple academic institutions have studied autonomous systems and distributed energy as potentially transformational, but their own analysis consistently stresses that adoption depends on clearing real technical, regulatory, and societal hurdles first. That is not corporate cheerleading. That is a group of researchers explicitly refusing to promise something they cannot yet prove. So let's be precise about what is Tesla's official position, what is Elon Musk's personal opinion, and what is independent analysis. Because blending those three together is exactly how misinformation spreads. Tesla as a company has stated on earnings calls that autonomy, robotics, and energy storage represent its core future growth engines. That is a corporate statement of strategy and intent. Musk personally has gone further, describing Optimus as potentially the largest product in company history and framing full self-driving as an inevitability. That is his opinion and his prediction, not a guaranteed outcome. Independent financial analysts remain divided, some modeling massive future value from autonomy and robotics, others discounting the timeline as too aggressive. And academic institutions studying automation broadly agree the technology could be transformational in theory, while explicitly refusing to promise it will happen on any particular schedule. Four very different voices saying four different things and conflating them into one confident narrative is exactly how an audience gets misled. Which brings the investigation back to the original question, the one that has been sitting underneath every single piece of evidence in this video. Is Tesla still a car company that happens to be experimenting with some interesting side projects, or has the car itself quietly become the smallest part of a much larger machine? The honest, unglamorous answer sits somewhere in the middle, and that middle ground is more interesting than either extreme. Tesla has genuinely moved beyond being just a car manufacturer. That part is verified fact, visible in its own capital spending, its own chip development, its own energy business, and its own public statements. What Tesla is building looks piece by piece like the foundation of a broader technological and infrastructure platform, one that could eventually touch artificial intelligence, robotics, energy, and automated labor all at once. That much is a reasonable, well-supported conclusion based on the evidence in front of us. But turning that foundation into an entirely new economy, one that measurably reshapes how millions of people work, move, and power their homes, still depends on things that have not happened yet. It depends on artificial intelligence reaching a level of reliability that regulators are comfortable approving. It depends on manufacturing bottlenecks and batteries, chips, and factories being solved at a scale nobody has achieved before. It depends on public acceptance of robots and driverless vehicles moving through daily life. And it depends on economic and political systems deciding how the value created by all of this actually gets shared, rather than concentrated in a single company's balance sheet. None of that is guaranteed. All of it is still being written in real time. So maybe the real takeaway from everything we just walked through is not a prediction about the future at all. Maybe it is a correction about the past. For years, nearly everyone, including plenty of very smart investors, was watching one screen while the actual story was unfolding on another one entirely. Tesla was never just fighting for market share against other car brands. It was quietly assembling silicon, artificial intelligence, robotics, and energy infrastructure into a single connected system, piece by piece in plain sight, while the world kept asking about delivery numbers. Whether that system eventually becomes the backbone of a genuinely new economy is a question none of us can answer with certainty today, but there is a decent chance you are going to close this video thinking exactly one thing. Maybe I spent years looking at Tesla the wrong way entirely. And if that thought just landed, it is worth remembering that this is not the last industrial shift that is going to sneak past public attention while everyone stares at the wrong headline. So that you are not the last one to notice the next one, join us here, because the real story in this industry rarely arrives with a warning label.